You, what up, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Discord? We back, man. You know what it is. It's another Docs Radio banger. It's me, realest recruiter in the game. So put some respect on my name. Like it, tweet it, share it with somebody who needs to see it. And we are back for our fourth round of East Denver. Can't get every year I say I'm not coming back to Denver, but you know what? I can't stay away. The cigar night keeps bringing me back. And this time around, I brought some friends with me. So as you know, we'll do a couple pods, and excited to kick off the first one. I got Anna from Perena in the building. Why don't we start there? We're gonna get into like the lore, like what you're building is playing into the stablecoin narrative. Obviously, your own personal backstory a little bit, but let's talk about the brand a little bit. Like what is Perena, and like how did you land on that?
Choosing a name was a real struggle, honestly. I needed something that was pronounceable, which turned out to not really be the case because I discussed the name with non-native English speakers. I wanted them to be able to pronounce it, and everyone said Perena. The alternative name was something that everyone who's American could pronounce, but all the non-English speakers were not able to pronounce. So the choices ended up between something that was eternal, perennial, nature inspired. So that's how Perena came about. And the other names were all like mathematical, philosophical nature words, which I personally have an affinity for. And so for the nature words, because I'm a big climber and skier, and something that I think like trees that grow for a very long time, like nature is not something that moves as quickly as TikTok and technology. So nice. That was kind of the inspiration.
Nice. So you put on your left brain for that one.
Yeah.
Nice.
So left brain, right.
Yeah. I feel like there could be some touching grass marketing angle in there somehow.
We do. We have a sticker that's like touch grass or like grow the garden.
Love it. Is your hair somehow like a part of this? Like your hair is very like. Are you? Yeah. What are we doing here? Like I'm used to seeing it like full blue. Like what's the inspiration?
I've had probably every single hair color out there at this point. But most of the time I have rainbow hair. Like when I was at Solana, I had Solana colored hair. Now it's more like purple, teal theme, but yeah, it's part of the
it's part of the lore.
Yeah,
part of the lore. Well, let's take it back. So before starting Perena, you were at the Solana Foundation. Yeah. What about before that?
Before that, I did a number of different things. So when I first got out of school, I actually went to Consensus. I did what was called DAO research at the time, which was really looking at a bunch of white papers talking about DAOs. And that was the whole spiel, like what we would now call DePIN projects. At that time, there was no word for it. So it's like, how do we, I think one of the ones I remember was like, get all the toilets in different houses, like toilet DePIN. And the more normal ones are like solar panel DePIN, like I'll lend your extra energy from your house to your neighbor's house. What really interested me at the time was, and I did not come from a technical background per se, so a lot of I knew pretty early on that Ethereum would not be able to sustain a lot of these things. Well, I didn't have the, I think, audacity and thought was to think of something better than Ethereum, which is Solana.
Let's go.
So I didn't have the mental audacity to like dream IBRL at that time, increased bandwidth, reduced latency for those who are not.
Well, I have to stop you right here. You just said you don't come from a technical background. I feel like there needs to be a third option here. Like there's technical, there's non-technical, and then there's whatever the hell you are. Someone who knows a lot of smart shit. Like
I don't write code, but I can read and like the other.
We got to distinguish that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was very interested in the conceptual ideologies of decentralization, democratizing human coordination at that time. After a while at Consensus, I didn't really see that coming to fruition. And at that age and experience level, I wasn't able to like start something in the field with those ideologies that I learned and absorbed from working in the system, in the ecosystem. So I left. I went to do, I worked in education. And then I worked at McKinsey very briefly. On my LinkedIn, it says that was a mistake, which I still hold true. I think it's a good opportunity, but one that made me realize how much I don't want to be in traditional corporate world. Also, I did go to business school during that time. Also, potentially a mistake. I would say no, not a mistake. I'm getting the same level of learning that I in the industry as I did at business school. And I think having some of the preconceptions of how people have been thinking about business for the last 50, 100 years partially helped, but also partially did not help me in coming into Web3 and thinking about like growth and operating a company and so on and so forth.
So you went from McKinsey and studying for your MBA straight to the Solana Foundation.
Yeah, so it was at that time it was Solana Labs, and then we migrated over to Foundation. So it gave me an opportunity to also shift roles. At first, I was on the payments team. So
wait, just to back up a second, like I'm just curious, like how did that feel, like to go from like that corporate miserable lifestyle that just like if it's not for you, you feel it, and you just like I didn't know there was another option. I'll be honest with you, like I just had I'd never been exposed to the startup world, so having worked for big corporations and TradFi companies and things like that, I just didn't know there was another way. So when I found crypto, I was like, it was like a drug. Like I was like, oh my God, this is fucking awesome.
Same. I think most of my life I was just told that like go to McKinsey or investment banking or something along those lines, and then assimilate and you'll be fine. And I was always like that kind of weird kid that never fit into any of those large organizational structures. So when I found crypto and found like all the colorful personalities in the industry, quickly fell in love with how you like every other day you hear somebody pitch you something entirely wild and probably never going to happen, but yet you still like try to think about it like, oh, is this actually possible? Because if you don't entertain the idea seriously, 3 months later that thing might go to the moon and you're like, oh shit, we've all missed
the moonshot here and there. Totally understand. I am curious, like I don't know how much you're willing to open up a little bit, but like when you say you were that weirdo and you never fit in, like a lot of us can relate to that. Obviously there's different levels. What characteristics, like how do you describe that?
I wasn't that interested in what people were talking about, I think a lot of times when I was at school. And
I get from you that if you wanted to, you could just like remove yourself from like if someone's talking to you, I feel like you could just like eliminate yourself from the conversation somehow. Is that true?
Yeah. Okay, so like practically, so in college, I lived around the world because I was so bored at campus, and I didn't really get I think had I gotten the startup exposure and like be more bold in starting a company, I probably would have started then. But at the time, I was just like, why is everybody sitting here being miserable at the library on the Saturday? I want to go like live in Morocco, which is what I did. I want to go live in Morocco and like travel the world. So I did that for a good while in college. It seemingly was like didn't fit into any job description that anybody was hiring for until Solana Foundation had a team that was global growth. So that fit really well with my experience living around the world and talking to people from like different backgrounds. So I mean,
yeah, and just to bring us like back on track for like a second, and then we'll move on. But like I am curious, like I get that like maybe the typical like path that you were walking and like the things that you saw in that path didn't really compel you or interest you. But like what did? What's something that like what's a passion of yours actually?
Climbing.
Really?
And art.
Marty loves climbing.
But I came from the climbing gym today. Yeah. So in grad school, I was exploring like building a tattoo network, because I had like a hard time dealing with tattoo artists, and like those are not business people. They don't speak the like how do I optimize tattoo revenue and the industry? Other ideas I explored were like sex tech and like climbing gym.
Like sex tech, like hardware or software?
Like software.
So like data analytics, like how they have like this little aura like to tell you how your performance is.
I think the idea around that, it was like, I was around COVID when I was in grad school. So OnlyFans like went to the moon. So a lot of people were thinking like, how do we do different version, like how do we make OnlyFans better, basically.
There were so many cringe versions of that.
Yeah. I'm glad I did not go down that
Yeah.
path, but nonetheless gave me some insights into like creator network and
Nice.
how do you, like the whole industry is super skewed towards male. So at that time, my insight was like, okay, if male dominates 90% or like however many percentage of the industry, probably female consumption could increase too. And I wasn't that passionate about that industry. Like,
Yeah, it was your creative brain was going. Yeah, it latched on for a second.
Like, something that's not like sitting in an office with suit and tie. After all these, I think what's stuck out to me was like I wanted something that is a large TAM and not something that is a like small coffee shop pop business. So
yeah, tattoos is not
like a $10 billion industry, I think. So not that big.
I was just curious to like get to know you a little bit about your interests and like, you know, what gets the juices flowing. But I guess like to bring it back to today. So it's interesting, like you have this one side of you that's very creative and like out there and just like exploratory, you know, and then you come to consensus and you're doing like reading white papers, you know, research, and then you come to Solana and, you know, I'll let you tell it, but you know, you're working on stable coins, which is like, at the time, I mean, it wasn't the sexiest like thing to do in crypto. So, I mean, I love, there are a couple of people like that I can make an analogy to in AI that were like building in AI before it was like the sexy thing to do. So I really love finding people that were like in it for like the authentic reason rather than like this shiny hot object. Point I'm trying to make though is like at that time when you were working on stablecoins, it's very boring compared to like the rest of crypto. And everything else you just described as far as your interests are very like exciting and like, yeah, like not boring. So tell me, how did you like land on stablecoins and what made you like interested?
Money is power. Money is the language of human coordination. So nothing more interesting than that. Just jokes aside, I think I was I studied philosophy in college. So this is like kind of a continuation of how humanity is evolving with how humans evolve. Humans advance because humans can coordinate better than any other species. Money helps humans coordinate. Blockchain helps humans coordinate money better. So to me, stablecoins is the most interesting thing in the world, apart from climbing.
So, love it.
Stablecoins is the most interesting thing in the world. But I didn't arrive at that conclusion until a couple months after I raised my hand and said I wanted to work on stablecoins. The main realization was I was on the payments team and realized that we don't really know anybody in the stablecoin world. In fact, Solana Labs at that time haven't talked to Tether or Circle in maybe over half a year. When I asked, like, so who's our contact there? And I realized the importance of, nobody's going to pay for, I think at that time, a lot of payments, like BitPay was a big thing. I think Transact and Ramp and like MoonPay, those guys were kind of big. But majority of that was people paying with like Bitcoin, Litecoin, Monero maybe, I know, and like Sol. And so the idea was, okay, maybe if you want to pay in Sol, give Sol moneyness? But the big the like aha moment is like, no, Sol will have its own moneyness over time, just like ETH has some semblance of moneyness. When people say mass adoption, that's going to come from dollar-denominated stablecoins, and we should work on doing that. For a while, I did a little detour of like, okay, there's like other FX, other currencies, but after about a year of trying to bring multiple non-US dollar currencies on board, I still believe there will be a market for them, but I think like dollar-denominated stablecoins are the way to go. Whether they're backed by the dollar or not, that's a different question. So I have a much more, I don't know if libertarian view is the correct description, but I have a much more maybe avant-garde view of how dollar stablecoins should be backed. But I think they should be denominated in USD for the time being.
When you landed on this idea, realization, and we're communicating this up the chain to, you know, Solana people, how was this received?
I remember October 2022, I made a presentation to like the execs at Foundation and at Labs, and I pitched them on like opening up the vertical of stablecoins, like pitching a job description for myself, and I said I wanted to work on stablecoins. Somewhat interesting, like okay, you can give it a try. I just joined out of B school, so like I wasn't that senior of a person, and then they let me do it, which I'm super grateful of. Post FTX, it became a very obvious role because all the exchanges shut off Solana stablecoin support. So like I was a dedicated person and the only 1 out of 2 Mandarin speakers on the team calling all the exchanges every evening, like, hello, actually explaining to them, Solana does not mint, Solana Foundation is not the minter of USDC. Therefore, Solana Foundation does not control how much USDC we can mint. We're not affected by FTX, like so on and so forth. I explained that 10 times to various exchanges. But after we got out of the the worst part of that part of the dip, and people like partners started reinstating Solana support, it became time to grow Solana stablecoins and tried a lot of different things. The only thing I did not try, and what I'm trying now, is DeFi native stablecoins.
So I'm more personally interested in like your founder journey, how you run the business, operational strategy that you've taken so far. So I guess first question I have is like, when you had the idea for Perena, like solo female founder, first time, young, feels like an uphill battle. I can imagine it could feel, daunting and intimidating. How did you handle that?
It was actually exactly 1 year ago. I was in East Denver at the actual venue manning the Solana booth. The founder of Artemis, the co-founder of Artemis, John Ma, sat me down and said, Anna, you can do it. I believe in you. We went to school together and he's like, you can do it. Doesn't matter what you want to do. I believe in you. So that was the first time somebody looked me in the eye and said, like, you can do it. Because previously I was always on the sideline, like on the supporting side of a foundation, or I kind of just saw things happen and helped founders, but never really thought I could myself, one person, be a founder. Started thinking about it. It took quite a few months to think through, like, what are some things I want to do, some things I don't want to do. So it wasn't until September I left Solana Foundation. But on the daunting front, I think the first sign of small success was like over the course of 4 days, I raised almost 1 million in angel checks.
Nice.
And that was when I realized, oh shit, I could actually, because I think there was actually a period of time where I was dragging things on because I didn't hire anybody. I was just like, oh, let me think about the design some more. Let me do some research. I read like every single white paper of stablecoins out there. But I wasn't doing anything. Hindsight, like bias towards action when people speak about that. And then one day I was like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just going to go out and ask if people will give me money. And turned out that people were willing to give me money. So that really kicked off. And the moment you start raising like actual venture funding is when you're on the treadmill. You're like, okay, you're off to the races. You have to figure shit out.
Yeah. Now I gotta make this make sense.
As a first-time founder, I think I've made a lot of mistakes in the beginning. Like, y'all listening are looking to start a company. If you can bootstrap as well as you can, raise as little as you can in the early days, assuming market doesn't crash. That's a pretty good idea. Like, it will help force you to stay lean and really think about what you're doing. I would say as a Western team, because I'm US based, as a Western team, we've kept a pretty low burn rate. But when I talk to global founders, I'm like, wow, your burn's really low because you hired people in places that you're like arbitraging the talent cost, and they're able to run much longer and get much further with similar amounts of like money raised. So there are pros and cons. I think being in the center of capital markets means it's better. It's more likely that you will get capital in, but also means that because I'm employing engineers from the US, there's a huge premium compared to the global market.
Different strategies work well for different people and different business models. Me personally, if I'm being honest, I like your strategy better of like more domestic like workers that it's going to cost you a premium, of course. But what I believe is that in the labor market, we're working towards evening out that playing field because, if a stablecoin company hires a developer in Ukraine for, a low price, like there's someone that you're going to come along and say, I see the value in this person. I'm going to pay him what he's actually worth in the market. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that would be my concern personally.
Yeah, there's always that. As I've been interviewing a lot of people, I think like top tier talent, top tier around the world, they come in about the same salary.
Facts.
But if you're looking for like middle level junior people, you want to give them a shot. I've had great success finding people.
That's true. You can have asymmetric upside like that with hiring for sure. And I think it definitely helps in your case, speaking Mandarin, like to be able to really like more deeply evaluate these people from a cultural perspective to see what is the potential. Because you can look on paper and you can ask questions, you know, without having a deep, intricate conversation that can get you a pretty high level picture of like what this person's capable of right now. But like you have to go deeper to figure out what you can make them capable of, where you can help build them up to, you know? And that's where, and by the way, like, I don't know if you've done that yet, but that's a fucking great feeling when you've done that for someone.
Yeah,
know?
I think like it's a really scary thing as a founder or team lead to let your people do things. And I would say we're like a B player I am a B leader at this, and I want to get to the level where I can sleep at night and just let my people do their thing. I don't know what the English equivalent is, but there's like a Mandarin idiom that's like, use the people you trust and don't use people don't even hire them if you don't trust them. So
sounds like something a Mandarin.
There's like in this industry, I think there's like a ton more trust in hiring people, because one tweet that you write that's like wrong, or like one mistake you make could cause a lot of effects down the road. Like at a bigger company, there are so many steps and whatever, but at a crypto, like a Web3 startup, there are definitely things that could 10x your growth, or like slightly hinder or even severely hinder your growth.
I'm annoyed because you touched on something that I was definitely going to bring up, and I'm glad you did it. And by the way, applaud you for like really like a really deep level of self-awareness, I think, and that's like super important for not only founders, just professionals that want to grow their career and their business. So respect to you for that. One thing I've noticed about you, from how you describe it, I'm sure you're improving and getting a lot better in this, but like the whole, I hate using corny like catchphrases, but like paralysis by analysis kind of thing. And I feel like that very much frequently applies to founders that come from academic backgrounds and from like research backgrounds. And I get it. It makes sense. That's your sauce a little bit. And it's uncomfortable to, and there's other people like, you know, I'll give a good example. I think Movement Labs, great example of the opposite. And not to say that they haven't hit bumps in the road along the way and made big mistakes because of it, but like they just be doing shit, you know what I mean? And sometimes it works, and sometimes you raise $100 million, you know? Yeah, I guess like take me into that, like into your mindset around that a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I think I definitely was a big mistake on moving slow or wanting things to be like perfect or must be innovative. Never copy anybody else's ideas, or like really understand why if we are taking inspiration from another project. So 100%, like I said, I spend days looking through every single like EVM and Solana and like other.
And by the way, that's a superpower I want in many situations, you know?
Yeah, but definitely not in the situation of an early startup. Like what we should have done was just go build, maybe even fork another project. I still I still don't think
you still have strong values.
Yeah, I still don't think we should, unless it's like fully licensed open source and we talk to the team. But I think rest of the industry doesn't really think about that this way, which is fine. So in order to be competitive, that's something I think in hindsight I should have done, and then go to market faster and improve and start building V2 immediately when V1 launches, instead of waiting for like 2 months to try to innovate on things.
Well, and also like, especially when you find yourself, I don't know this for sure, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like when you started building Perena, it was like right before like the stablecoin narrative kind of really popped. And so like the timing is kind of impeccable that you found yourself in. And so that's more incentive for you to just capture the wave a little bit.
What we're doing now.
Yeah. It's awesome.
I wouldn't say like my design is the best or even close to where I think the potential of on-chain stablecoins could be, but we're just growing. We're onboarding new people. We have 60,000 active wallets that's interacted with our protocol at this point, and close to $1.7 billion
Let's go.
swap. So we're making like almost every block on Solana has Perena's transaction in it, which is what.
Hell yeah. First of all, I definitely want to show love to the guy you mentioned. I don't know him personally, but the guy from Artemis. And like, that's so dope when someone like expresses that, like, I believe in you, and like they say it loudly, confident, with your chest, like, yeah, you can do this. So shout out to you for that. And also you mentioned like projects that gave you inspiration. Curious to hear a little bit more about that. Any specific founders or projects that inspired you, or maybe any mentors that you have in the space that have really like helped you behind the scenes?
I think a lot of people inspire me because they're really good technical leaders and technical like visionaries. And maybe part of that is because I feel that I'm not the most technical person. So when I think of them as founders, I'm like, oh, you must know what you're doing because you can code it up and ship it. But there are plenty of projects that have inspired me in their way of growing, their way of launching products or communicating to users. I think there wasn't, I guess like there were two close friends that were with me as colleagues, but they started off doing their own things before me, and they did inspire me to like think about, okay, what could I do on my own? I wish I had seen more solo non-technical founders in the space, because it wasn't until after I started the company or started the project that I realized, oh, actually there are a bunch of them in the world, out in the wild, just doing their own thing. Big inspiration, like obviously you know this, but I worked with Lily Liu, who's the president of Solana Foundation, very closely when I was there. She was a multi-time founder on different various projects, a legend, absolute legend on both operating, running a business, growth, and finance. So a lot of that was like, oh, she could do this with a family and many other obligations. I could definitely do my part in challenging myself, and to this day she's a good mentor to me and to the protocol.
Anyone in the stablecoin space?
I think the M0 team is really good. Not like inspiring because I don't know their founding story as well. Like I don't really know how the three of them got started, but the way they approach things is very different than other people. That they came up with, like, in my opinion, a category opener of how to think about stablecoins.
Nice. And one last point on this topic, which I feel like you'll give me an answer for this, whereas like a lot of people can't, and this is just kind of scary. But like, I mean, I don't know how old you are. I thought you were younger than you really are. I'm 38 with a gray beard, and I feel like it's really important for these crypto native founders to have people outside of crypto to mentor them on things, like, even if they're wrong, you know what I'm saying? Like, just to be exposed to a different type of thought process, that differentiated, we're not in this echo chamber that, we're all like sharing the same thoughts and ideas and recycling them, Do you have anyone like that you just talk to, or, just have business conversations with?
Yeah, a couple. So I would say the books I read are almost entirely non-crypto books. They're mostly banking, financial history, and macroeconomics. So you really think about how those guys now and in the past have thought about money and the economy and finance. I actually talked to some of my business school friends who are in payments and at like hedge funds and trading firms. I asked them what they think about stablecoins, and I'll meet one tomorrow on the ski slopes as well, where we'll chat about like what they think are important to stablecoins. And I know that's very different from how I've been thinking, or how Perena is approaching stablecoins, because in their world and their what they care about, it's all like, can I get my money from point A to point B? I don't really care about what stablecoin. I just want on ramp, send, off ramp. And what I care about and what Perena is building is like, how do we build for Solana users to give them a better stablecoin or an alternative stablecoin than the existing ones that is more integrated and more native to the ecosystem. So those are very different points. It kind of pulls me back into reality of like, yeah, mechanism design is cool and all, but like really users don't really care about this. Like users care about a thing that's usable.
I don't know if you saw, I recently did a podcast with Joanna from Soon. Yeah, another solo non-technical Solana. You guys got to be doing panels together and shit like that, I'm sure. I'll be honest with you, like off camera, she was like expressing to me some challenges and about being a female founder. And when we were on camera doing the interview, she was very hesitant to like resistant to like speak. And I don't want to, I'm not digging for a spicy take. I'm not looking to fire shots at anyone, but like, I don't know. I mean, listen, I don't know if I need to be the person to pump this message, but I just feel like there's women out there that probably like could learn a lot from some of the challenges you face that are unique to being a female founder.
I think a lot of female founders, and generalizing, I'm sure some are not like this, but many of us are more empathetic and we're very kind, thinking about like, oh, how would the other person feel if we do X, Y, Z? But in reality, when I also wrote a Twitter thread that's like, you gotta be sometimes like be kind, but you need to be savage to survive in any industry.
Hell yeah.
And a lot of female founders or female leaders need to learn that the hard way, or else they get taken advantage of. I think that's...
And sometimes when you do learn it the hard way, it beats you down and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. Actually, at Harvard Business School, there was a case study we did. It was a female executive. Specifically, we've talked about this because her challenge was when she was too nice, everybody's like, you don't try hard enough. But when that was a particularly more aggressive female executive, and it really backfired because everyone's like, how could a woman be a bitch like this? But if the same exact personality, same actions were a dude, nobody would have said anything. No, people would be like, oh, alpha male, great.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a whole discussion.
So how do you overcome that?
I don't think he does.
Real. I mean, yeah. I
think sometimes like all of us are kind in many ways. We help each other out at times or help other people out, but we only have so much bandwidth, and sometimes you just got to say no.
Interesting. Did you find any friction or like heavy pushback during like the raising process, during the maybe hiring process?
I think in raising for sure. All else equal, if I were a dude, I think it would have been easier to raise. I also feel like most investors I've talked to were I was not aware of much like discrimination or whatnot. I definitely have female friends, like tales of mostly white male investors telling them like, oh, you must not be the founder. Like, who is that? The actual founder? I think the only thing I've come across is like, I've gotten introduced as co-founder many, many times when I don't have a co-founder, and I don't think it's like intentional or anything. On the hiring front, I think it's more about whether you are... No, I don't think so.
Good.
I haven't noticed. I think the space itself is really interesting, and the people who are looking to be hired are often not the ones that are directly competing, because at that life stage, they're not looking to build their own company. Like, building a company sucks in many different ways.
It is awesome when it works.
Yeah.
I get you.
We're not there yet.
You're on your way. And yeah, just to wrap up this segment is like, I appreciate your perspective on this kind of thing, because like you're obviously aware of biases and issues, but I don't see you as someone who like looks to overplay that hand. I see you as someone who's pretty like steady and balanced and like objectively analyzing situations. So is there a message that you would give to men of like why it makes sense to treat female founders differently or better, or I don't know?
I wouldn't say better per se.
If you're talking to like a male like VC or even a founder or an angel, like
I believe there's some statistics that's like 90% of founders of male. I might be totally wrong, but like some egregious number back in the day, potentially now better. I'm not saying that they should find more female founders, but I think it's actually even more up funnel before they get to the VCs. Actually roll it back. I don't think I can give an answer until I look at like number of pitches, gender ratio of pitches being made, and the checks being made. I'm pretty sure there's a discrepancy. I don't know how big that discrepancy is.
Well, I'm working this year, so one of the things I want to do better for UpTop this year is to like, I think I have exposure to really interesting like data out there. And I think I want to do a much better job of collecting and sharing that. Yeah. And so we're going to capture different data points than we've paid attention to in the past, like gender, location, things like that. Like I want to know, how many female engineers got hired in Europe this year, like compared, just to have that information, I think there's value in it somewhere. I don't exactly know what I'm going to do with it, but I know that there's something there.
Well, McKinsey did a lot of studies, like all the McKinsey, BCG, Bain all did a ton of those studies. It's very telling when you bring that data out.
Yeah.
Actually, one message to VCs or to capital allocators is that oftentimes it doesn't matter, male, female, whatever, if you keep funding the same type of people with very similar backgrounds, you're going to get very similar outcomes. And when you're looking for that moonshot, potentially you want to diversify that.
Yeah, very similar to the point I was making earlier about diversity of thought when you're talking to mentors and shit like that. So yeah. All right. Let's get into like community, users, whatever, followers, subscribers, whatever you want to call them, your people. How do you want to make them feel? What's the experience you want to give them? How do you go about curating good energy from the Perena supporters?
Art and education are the two that we focus on, which is quite different from a lot of projects. Art, because I like art. We have excellent artists and designers on the team. We really try to use aesthetics and culture to communicate something that's emotional to people, which is stark contrast to how most financial institutions communicate, which is like solemn, like austere, stern kind of impression. Ours is much more vibrant and culturally rich in different ways. On the education side, I think financial literacy, stablecoin awareness, DeFi awareness, we do podcasts, we write, I write blogs, team members write various output. We also have a community Perena writers program that we invite some of the writers to talk about not just Perena, but also stablecoins. Within the community, I'll be super blunt, like there's the airdrop farmer crowd that's like typically the fairly toxic community, and then there's like the real community. So we're much more focused on cultivating the real community of people who care about not just us, but usually like they're in the broader Solana ecosystem looking to grow the pie together instead of just max extracting from projects and dipping out to go to the next project.
I'm curious, when you talk about education and financial literacy, can you be a little bit more specific? Are you talking about creating content to like educate normies out there of like, so you're not speaking to only crypto natives with that? That's awesome.
I should post a lot on LinkedIn and like
I know you do, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that because it's, we all clown LinkedIn. It's a fucking ridiculous platform at times, but I mean, there are people on there that are, it's, I think we're aligned on like just getting out of the bubble sometimes, man.
Yeah. I don't know how my rest of my LinkedIn circle feels about me shit posting about stablecoins all the time, but I keep
normalize shit posting on LinkedIn.
Yeah, they're relatively simple messages to send. It's like stablecoins equals 24/7 financial system. Stablecoins equals near free payments. Stablecoins equals better, faster sources of yield on chain. Like, don't need to go. I've been criticized by my own team members that my tweets or writings are too academic or too like difficult to understand. So I've been trying to tone it down and just like bang on the same message. Just like Murr banged on Solana for like 2 years. Like he didn't really go into much. He didn't always go into the technical details of why Solana was better. But nowadays, he's like, number 2 on Kaido's Yapper board, which is like a Twitter ranking of people's shit posts. And
speaking of toxic community members, man, I can't take it. But no, I understand, and I think it's really cool that you're speaking to a broader audience at times, and it is relevant to your business as well. It's good vibes to put out there for people. It's helping people. And that's good. That's a good brand to build for yourself,
Especially when the markets are down. We had people text us and be like, oh, shit, I have like a couple thousand in Perena. Saved me. Great.
Nice. Okay, cool. Let's talk about hiring for a second. It's a tough market. Like we're at this point in a, bull cycle, let's call it. Like the market becomes thin and there's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of companies hiring and it's hard to sometimes. As a candidate, I imagine hard to find good signal. Get like really excited about something when there's so many, so many buzzwords and new fundraising popping up. Talk to me through like kind of some of your learning experiences through the hiring process. Went well, what you've had to fix, and what are some of the biggest challenges you face?
Yeah, I think hiring, sometimes they're just giving them a chance, you're not going to always find the ideal profile you're looking for. So when you don't have that person that's like unicorn, checks all the boxes, now you have to filter through the various people who have strengths and weaknesses in one or more fields that you care about. Our hires, some of the best hires we've made on paper, did not look very promising. And I'm really glad I gave them a chance, whether it's through a work trial or a take home or through multiple rounds of interviews and reference checks and all sorts of ways to get good signal, get signal from the candidate. We just threw them in there and said, like, hey, this is what I need get done. This is what we need to do it. And I'm like, I know the best is hire slow, fire fast. I'm right now, like I was hire fast, fire fast, which is one way to go about it.
I've seen it. I've seen that work for people.
Yeah. So like, I think it works. I think because I'm not in like a raised giant round famous company position, I'm just going to hire fast, fire fast. And early days, things could change. But one thing though, is you need to keep the culture true to yourself, because once you have a core team and that core team's culture will define the rest of the company's culture.
Yeah. I mean, hiring is difficult, and it's, you have people you have some strong supporters in the background. Shout out to Alex from Cube. Obviously you got myself and Anagram and a bunch of other people that are pushing people your way. And I'm on the front lines waving the Perena flag. You got to know it. You got to know it. I guess really last question I have before we wrap it up, given your creative, like original side and past experience in, places like McKinsey and all the academic places you've been and things like that, have you come up with any like unique or differentiated ways of operating your business that like is maybe kind of unique to you? Like, I'll give you an example, like Conan, the founder of Rena Labs. And he said, yeah, like I like to keep a Google Meets hangout that's like just 24/7, just open. And whoever is working, we just pop in there and we like co-work together. And it's my way of bringing the team together. That, that's my thing. Is there anything that you do that's like unique in how you structure or run the team on a day-to-day?
We share a lot of industry news and we comment on industry news within the team. So if there's like a piece of relevant news, like Athena raising 100 mil on like OTC, I would share with the team and say like, look, this is where stablecoins as like parts of the stablecoin industry could go if TradFi, if they're aiming for like TradFi adoption, or if
so it's like cultivating like
market awareness, cultivating a business intuition among like every single person in the company. And Athena is not like the best example, because most of the time people are like, oh, this is a cool DeFi app design. Like we should totally try to look at this, or this is like a cool user flow. Like, let's go check it out. So that's something we do a lot.
I think that promotes like openness of ideas and sharing thoughts and ideas on new topics before. This is the way we're all like, it's openness, and it's also, it results in you guys being very aligned on mission when you're actively having those kind of conversations.
Yeah. I think another thing is like, I'm not afraid to say I don't know to the team, because if I'm not the best, if I don't know enough to be super confident and say we should go one way, I'd rather just admit that I don't have enough information to make the best decision than like tell everybody this is right because of some bullshit reason.
All right. And to wrap us up here before we get out, last thing, I know you're not a shameless shiller, but I mean, I do want to know, honestly, for anyone watching and for myself, like what are you most excited about this coming year for Perena? What should we be paying attention to as far as your project?
Check out USD Star, which is our stablecoin LP token. It soon will become a stablecoin-like asset in and of itself. So you can use it on Solana and many other places to come.
Amazing. Well, thank you for doing this. It's great to see you. And I appreciate like the opportunity to work with you and support the project.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you, UpTop, for having me. And thanks, Dan.
Yeah, thank you.